The cabin was too quiet for a full flight. Not silent, never silent, but filled with that careful, manufactured calm airlines expected. The low hum of engines, the soft chime of seatbelt reminders, the polite rustle of newspapers and earbuds sliding into place. It was the sound of strangers agreeing, without saying a word, to mind their own business. Aisha Carter sat upright in her seat near the front of the cabin, hands folded neatly in her lap. She wore a sleeveless red dress that hugged her shoulders with confidence, the kind of red that didn't ask for permission to be seen. Her posture was composed, practiced, as if she had learned long ago that how you sit can become a statement when the world is waiting for you to slip. She had boarded early. First-class board in her ticket confirmed it, her name printed clean and bold. She had smiled politely at the attendant who scanned it, nodded once, and taken her seat without a word. Still, she felt it. The eyes, they didn't linger too long, never long enough to be called staring, but they returned again and again. A glance from the man across the aisle, a double take from the woman to Rose back, that quiet recalculations happening behind smiles. Does she belong here? Aisha stared straight ahead, jaw relaxed, eyes steady. She had been in rooms like this before, boardrooms, lounges, private events with soft lighting and unspoken hierarchies. She knew the rules. Be calm, be flawless, give them nothing to question. Behind her, laughter bubbled softly. A white couple, well-dressed, champagne already in hand, leaned toward each other as if sharing a private joke about the luxury of it all. The man glanced forward, then leaned closer to his wife. She's bold, he murmured. His wife smiled thinly. Maybe she upgraded. Aisha heard it anyway. She always did. The flight attendant approached down the aisle with practiced grace, heels clicking softly against the carpet. Her blonde hair was pulled into a tight, professional boon. Her smile was bright but narrow, the kind designed for training videos and customer satisfaction surveys. She stopped beside Aisha's seat. "Excuse me," the attendant said, her tone sweet but clipped. "May I see your ticket?" Aisha blinked once. "I already showed it during boarding," she replied calmly. The attendant's smile didn't move. "Yes, but we're just doing a quick verification." Aisha reached into her purse and handed over the boarding pass without hesitation. She watched the woman's eyes scan it once, twice before something flickered. Confusion, surprise, discomfort. The attendant's smile faltered just slightly. "Oh," she said. Aisha waited. The attendant hesitated, then cleared her throat. "I just want to confirm. You're aware this is first class?" Aisha met her gaze evenly. "Yes." There was a pause, too long to be polite, too short to be accidental. "Well," the attendant said, lowering her voice, "but not enough. We've had some mix-ups today. Sometimes passengers sit here thinking it's part of economy comfort." A ripple of attention spread, heads tilted, ears sharpened. Aisha felt heat rise in her chest, but her voice stayed level. "There's no mistake. That's my assigned seat." The attendant glanced at the ticket again, then around the cabin, as if looking for confirmation from the audience forming quietly around them. "Right," she said slowly. "It's just that we're nearly out of premium meal selections. First class, usually Aisha said nothing. "So," the attendant continued, smiling again, "we only have leftovers available." The words landed heavier than they should have. Only leftovers. The man across the aisle raised his eyebrows. The woman behind Aisha shifted uncomfortably, pretending to adjust her bag. Aisha folded her hands tighter. "That's fine," she said. "I'll have whatever's included with my ticket." The attendant laughed softly, a sound meant to be disarming. "Of course, it's just, we want to manage expectations." Aisha held her gaze. "My expectations are being treated like everyone else in this cabin." Silence. The attendant's smile tightened. "I didn't mean anything by it." "I know," Aisha replied. "That's usually how it goes." A murmur rippled through the nearby seats. The attendant straightened. "I'll see what I can do," she said, already turning away. As she walked down the aisle, whispers followed her like turbulence. Aisha exhaled slowly. Her reflection stared back at her from the darkened window, composed, unbroken. But inside, something old stirred, a familiar ache, the exhaustion of always having to prove what was already paid for. Minutes passed. The plane leveled off. The seatbelt sign chimed off. Drinks were served. First class settled back into comfort. When the attendant returned, she carried a tray. She stopped again at Aisha's seat. "So," she said lightly, "we do have one premium meal left. But it's usually reserved for our elite frequent flyers." Aisha tilted her head slightly. "I am an elite frequent flyer." The attendant blinked. "Yes," Aisha said. "And a corporate partner." The attendant's face flushed. "I didn't see that on the system." "You didn't look," Aisha replied. The silence this time was louder. Behind them, the man with the champagne shifted in his seat. "Is there a problem?" he asked, suddenly uncomfortable with the scene he had been quietly enjoying. "No problem at all," Aisha said, before the attendant could answer. "Just a misunderstanding." The attendant forced a laugh. "Exactly. A misunderstanding." She placed the premium meal on Aisha's tray a bit too quickly. "Enjoy," she said, already retreating. Aisha watched her go. Across the aisle, the man avoided her eyes now. The woman behind her leaned forward slightly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "That wasn't right." Aisha nodded once. "Thank you." As the cabin returned to its curated calm, Aisha picked up her fork but didn't eat right away. Her appetite had vanished, replaced by the familiar mix of anger and resolve. She thought about how many times this had happened, different places, different uniforms, same assumptions. She thought about her daughter waiting at home, bright-eyed and curious, asking questions about the world, about fairness, about kindness. She thought about what she would tell her. Aisha took a slow breath and began to eat, not because she was hungry, but because she refused to shrink. Later, as the flight prepared for landing, the captain's voice echoed warmly through the cabin, thanking passengers for choosing the airline. The attendant passed by once more, this time avoiding Aisha's gaze. Aisha didn't stop her. She didn't need an apology whispered out of obligation. She didn't need excuses wrapped in politeness. What she needed, what she always needed, was for the world to see her without asking her to prove she belonged. As the plane descended through layers of cloud, sunlight spilled briefly through the window, catching the red of Aisha's dress and setting it alight. For a moment, no one questioned it, and for that moment, she let herself believe that one day this wouldn't be a story worth telling. Until then, she would keep taking her seat. The wheels touched down with a muted thud, rubber kissing runway, and the cabin shifted as if everyone woke up at the same time. Seatbelts clicked open, phones came alive, conversations resumed in fragments, cautious and polite. Aisha remained still for a moment longer. Planning always did this to her, this strange pause between what happened and what came next, between endurance and aftermath. She stared at the aisle ahead, where the flight attendant stood thanking passengers with a smile that felt rehearsed one too many times. "Thank you for flying with us," the attendant said to each person, voice warm, eyes bright. When she reached Aisha's row, there was a fraction of hesitation. "Thank you for choosing us today," she said, softer now. Aisha looked up, met her eyes, not with anger, not with triumph, just truth. "You're welcome," she replied. Nothing else needed to be said. As passengers stood and reached for overhead bins, the man across the aisle struggled with his carry-on. Aisha rose smoothly, retrieving her bag with ease. Their eyes met briefly. He cleared his throat. "That was uncomfortable," he said, attempting a chuckle. "Yes," Aisha answered. "It usually is." He nodded, unsure what else to do with that honesty. In the aisle behind them, a younger woman, mid-20s, earbuds dangling around her neck, leaned forward. "I saw what happened," she said quietly. "You handled it really well." Aisha smiled, tired but genuine. "Thank you." The woman hesitated. "I don't think I would have." Aisha considered that. "You shouldn't have to," she said. The line shuffled forward. The plane emptied slowly, luxury taking its time even when it was done being generous. As Aisha stepped into the jet bridge, the air felt different, cooler, freer, less compressed. The illusion of equality dissolved the moment everyone stood on equal ground again. She walked with steady steps, heels clicking softly against the floor, shoulders squared. The terminal buzzed with arrivals and reunions, voices overlapping, languages blending. Screens flashed, destinations and delays. She pulled out her phone. A message waited. "Mom, did you land safely?" Aisha smiled. "Aisha, just landed." She hesitated, then typed again. "Aisha, I'll tell you about it later." She slid the phone back into her bag. At baggage claim, she stood near the carousel, watching suitcases tumble forward like pieces of people's lives, exposed briefly before being reclaimed. Around her, conversations drifted, complaints about legroom, jokes about turbulence, plans for dinner. The flight attendant appeared again, standing awkwardly a few feet away. Not working now, just another traveler in uniform. She approached cautiously. "Ms. Carter," she said. Aisha turned. "Yes, I wanted to say." The attendant paused, searching for words that wouldn't incriminate her but still sounded human. "I'm sorry if you felt singled out." Aisha held her gaze. "I didn't feel singled out," she said calmly. "I was." The attendant swallowed. "That wasn't my intention." "I know," Aisha replied again. "Intent doesn't change impact." The attendant nodded, eyes downcast. "I'll do better." Aisha studied her for a moment, then nodded once. "I hope so." No raised voices, no dramatic confrontation, just clarity. The attendant stepped back, relief and discomfort mixing on her face, then disappeared into the crowd. Aisha exhaled. Her suitcase appeared moments later. She lifted it effortlessly and headed toward the exit. Outside, the evening air wrapped around her like a reset. Cars idled at the curb. Drivers held signs. A man laughed loudly into his phone. Somewhere, a child cried. Life moved forward, indifferent and relentless. Her driver waved as he spotted her. "Ms. Carter," she smiled. "Good evening." As the car pulled away from the terminal, city lights stretching ahead like constellations brought down to earth, Aisha leaned back and closed her eyes. The silence inside the car was real, not curated, not forced. She thought about how many stories like hers never got told, how many moments like that passed without witnesses willing to speak, without language strong enough to name what happened. She thought about the woman who apologized, the young passenger who spoke up, the man who stayed quiet until it was safe. She thought about patterns. By the time she reached the hotel, resolve had replaced exhaustion. Her phone buzzed again, this time a work email. "Subject: board meeting tomorrow. Welcome back." Aisha smiled faintly. The irony didn't escape her. Later that night, standing by the hotel window, city humming below, she poured herself a glass of water and stared at her reflection. Same red dress, same composed face, the same woman who had learned to navigate rooms that never expected her. She wasn't angry anymore. She was focused. Tomorrow, she would sit at a long table with polished executives. Tomorrow, her voice would carry weight. Tomorrow, she would make decisions that shaped futures. And somewhere, on another flight, another woman would take her seat and feel the eyes. Aisha raised her glass slightly, a quiet salute to strangers she would never meet. "Two taking up space," she whispered. The city didn't answer, but it listened.